big reversal in a $7.2 million fraud case in Hennepin County. The judge has thrown out the jury's guilty verdict.
This wasn't some technical hiccup. These fraudsters, Abdelfatah Yusuf and Lul Ahmed, were convicted on 6 counts of charges, months of evidence, a jury that deliberated for hours, all erased in one ruling.
Yusuf and his wife, Lul Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant or PCA scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money.
And here's the part that rattled people inside the system. The judge didn't say the fraud didn't happen. She said the state couldn't prove who was responsible, which raised this question on everyone's minds. If a case this obvious can't hold, what happens to the rest? Because this ruling hit while Minnesota is already buried under billion-dollar fraud scandals, overseas money trails, and growing federal probes into how taxpayer money keeps disappearing. And here's the twist most people missed. Once that verdict collapsed, the issue stopped being one defendant. It became about whether Minnesota's system can still enforce fraud at all, or whether the feds are stepping in because the state no longer can. And that's where this story really starts. Here's why this case collapsing came out of nowhere and was shocking for most people. This wasn't a messy jury split or a hung panel. It was a unanimous guilty verdict, and that's because all the facts were on the prosecution's side. The fraudulent couple had a home healthcare business that barely existed, and billing Minnesota's Medicaid program for services that either weren't documented or never happened at all. But that wasn't all.
The jury heard evidence that he ran his home healthcare company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home healthcare companies were supposedly located.
And what's more, they followed the money and found a whole lot of it in Abdelfatah's accounts. Over $1 million moved from the business into personal accounts. Nearly $400,000 withdrawn in cash. You might be thinking, what could they have possibly needed that much money for? Well, according to prosecutors, they splurged it on luxury purchases, mansions, luxury vacations, a lifestyle that stood out immediately because it didn't exactly line up with their paycheck.
The files documenting spending sprees in which defendants, get this, took taxpayer money that was obviously meant to feed hungry kids during the pandemic, and instead they used it to buy fancy cars, property, jewelry.
And when jurors heard all that evidence, it only took them a few hours to reach a verdict. The jury foreperson later said this about the case.
It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most, based off of the state's evidence that was presented.